Mortals, kneel before me. I am Malacrack Foeburner, the terror of the skies, the burning, sanguine god. But you may address me simply as boss. You stand in the presence of a being who has shaped countless worlds, woven infinite stories, and orchestrated the rise and fall of civilizations, not for their sake, but because it entertains me. Listen well, for the knowledge I grant here is no mercy. It is power. Power for those of you who dare to sit upon the throne of creation as Dungeon Masters. This is not a place for the faint of heart or the lazy. No, you are here because you crave mastery, because you hunger to forge unforgettable worlds and weave stories that will echo throughout eternity. You think you know what it means to run a campaign? Foolish hatchling, I will teach you to be better. To summon forth monsters and NPCs that haunt your players' dreams. To build worlds so rich your players will swear they've lived there. To wield narrative tools so sharp you'll carve legends out of the choices. Every session is a battle for immersion, and every world is a tapestry of fire and fury. You will not find shortcuts here, only the forge where weak dungeon masters are burned away, leaving behind something worthy of commanding the table. So, if you seek to become better, to master the art of storytelling and world building, not as a hobby, but as a craft worthy of the gods themselves, you come to the right place. Subscribe and prepare yourself. The secrets I will share are not for the weak, but for those who dare to command. Now, let us begin. We embark on our first chapter. Setting the table. I know that sounds simplistic, but the table is more than mats, painted minis, dice, and books. I'm also not talking about the online play options that can feel a little less personal, but can create a more reliable rate of attendance and more comfortable players. The table is first surrounded by people who are here willingly, anxious to depart their comparatively boring lives to embark on adventure. The players must get along in real life. If they are not already best friends, they must initially keep some level of social distance from one another. If your players are dating each other or otherwise personally invested in each other, they need to keep it healthy and positive at the table. They must also leave interpersonal real-life drama at the door. If someone needs help in their lives, we reserve that discussion for another time. It is important to be understanding, but also to preserve the sanctity of the table. Set up firm rules that all must abide by. These rules should be created as a group, not just by you, the Dungeon Master, and everyone must agree. If there's a way to get everyone to sign an agreement to that fact, do it. D&D and other tabletop games are organized and focused on a curated experience, so it's not as casual as some other playing format. There is much more professionalism needed, as there is for any office party or other adult event. And I know that many want to play D&D with their children, and that's all well and good. However, the type of experience I offer, and many people seek, is meant for adults. If you, the DM, are a minor, then the players, even if some of the players are adults, should interact on your level and keep things lighter. If the ESRB, that organization for limiting children's access to intense game content, were to rate your game, keep your content and anything within the bounds of that protection. The general rule for this is keep it PG, for the kids. If you personally can't handle the violence of adult fantasy or intimate romance, don't force it on others. Keep everyone comfortable. Not every DM is going to be the same. But if you want that depth of story that most will want to delve into, you need to learn some personal things about your players. I'm not talking about sensitive personal data, but about sensitivities such as phobias and things that a DM needs to know to better respect the personal boundaries of the player. The player needs to open up only to the DM and doesn't need to elaborate on their answers. It's simply assumed that the DM will not cross that line, and you shouldn't. Once you've established the player's comfort and maturity, it's time to talk about skills. Every player is going to come to the table with a different level of understanding of the game, your games, and the knowledge base associated with your setting. That much is easy to prepare for. worry about that. The other things either come in time or the player may decide that they aren't well suited for this kind of game. What you can prepare for is the knowledge base. You have to demand that everyone as a player comes to the table with an outward affect, their facade, if you will, of someone who knows nothing about your setting's lore. Yes, I said your setting. Build a world. It's one thing to dabble in DMing and use the adventure paths or modules or whatever other canonized lore already exists in print. You know what I'm talking about. The resources are everywhere, and many of them don't even have the official company logo on them. You are free to use those as a reference guide if you're including content from those sources, but if you're making your own world, only use it as a reference material for your own setting, your own original content story. I'll get more into world building in later episodes, because there's so much to cover there. We could talk about it forever. We might actually do that if it's something that piques your interest. But there's so much to cover first about being a storyteller and a proper dungeon master. Art. You need good visual representations of your resources. It's one thing to verbally describe what your players' characters are seeing, but accompanying it with something tangible is very important. If you're at a table, this can be as simple as something in the form of a little printout to reveal and then pass around the table. It could also be painted miniatures to place on the table for reference. Online tabletop sessions are even easier because you could even use AI to get a little help with creating tokens and images. Just be sure your descriptions and visuals match, so there's no confusion. Get familiar with your table. If you're using an online virtual tabletop, take the time to get to know how it works. Some technological faux pas are funny, but too many can detract from your session and break the role-playing immersion. If you're sitting around an actual table, be sure that the setup you have is sustainable for the whole session. If you have a DM screen, make sure the other players can't see behind it. Hide your books out of sight. You don't want to give away too much of what's happening. If you picked up a book called Dungeon Traps, your players are going to see it, and some may even have read it. The more discreet you can be in this regard, the better. Be sure you are rolling behind the screen with your dice, and being as discreet as you can about what and how many dice you are using. You can even roll multiple dice of different values to hide which ones you're actually using when calculating the total of a roll. It's your responsibility as a DM to control your actions. That means if you have a drink, it needs to be covered and secure. The same goes for everyone at the table or at your desk. Offer wet wipes for the hands of your players for when they are snacking. Seriously. Also, ban loud snacks. We don't need to hear Chuck the Dwarf munching on his granite corn when we're in a serene scene or deeply emotional state. Anything to help keep the role-playing immersion is gold. The final subject, and also the most important, I think, is to be respectful. If it wasn't obvious, I'm literally the boss here. I could destroy you with but one flare of a glorious nostril. So, it's important to set up that unspoken contract of respect first. I respect you because I want to. You respect me because you are nothing but a scurrying cockroach before me. That is all the advice I feel like dispensing for today. Bask in my glory and despair, mortals. I am the heroes and harbinger of doom, devourer of salty snacks, and hider of the remote control. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to all notifications for more content.